Hello, my name is Stephen Lovett, and I'd just like to tell you a little bit about the book that I've just published called NewSkins for Old Wine, Plato's Wisdom for Today's World. Now, I hope you won't be put off by that title. Although it is about Plato and his philosophy, it's also my attempt to update it and to apply it to everyday life these days. It covers quite a range of different topics, everything from how can you know that anything is true through to sexuality and love and friendship. So you see, it really is a very wide-ranging document, and I think it could be interesting to lots of people with different backgrounds. I'm trying to address ordinary people with this book, people who haven't got any expertise in philosophy, and people who might even be put off by the very word philosophy. That isn't important. Please don't come to the book with any preconceptions. And I hope that the main thing that you get out of reading the book is having your eyes opened and starting to think about questions that perhaps you'd previously ignored or put to one side. I'm a Catholic, and part of the book is relevant to my faith. But it isn't a preachy book. It isn't meant to try and persuade you of the truth of the Catholic religion, of which I do believe. It's a book to make you ask questions and to open your eyes to the things going on in the world around you. One of the things that's been troubling me over the last few years is that our whole society seems to be coming unravelled at the corners. I've become convinced that the reason for this is because of the prevalence among us, especially in our education system, of a whole set of ideas which can be lumped together under the title relativism or subjective relativism. This is kind of something that Plato himself many years ago saw happening in his society, and something that he opposed vigorously. What is subjective relativism then? It's very simply an idea which, it sounds stupid, but a lot of people believe this idea now. The simple idea being that nothing really is real. That everything is just what you think. The only thing that matters isn't reality or truth, but your opinion. And in fact, your opinion, whoever you are, is your truth. And because your truth is as good as anybody else's truth, no one else has any kind of right to tell you what you should think or what you shouldn't think. Now, certain aspects of that are kind of right. It may very well be true that no one has the right to tell you what you should think. But that doesn't mean to say that there isn't something that is true, that it would be better for you to think than other things. If you come to the edge of a cliff and jump off that cliff, just believing that you can fly won't help you when your skull hits the rocks 100 feet below. If you'd listened to someone that told you that you couldn't fly and it wasn't a good idea to step off the edge of that cliff, then you would be a lot better off. In fact, you'd be alive, not dead. That's what subjective relativism leads to. People jumping off the edge of cliffs because they think that they know best, when in fact they're just acting on wishful thinking. There are many things in this world and this life that would be good if they weren't like that. Many things. As one gets older, one goes through many sufferings in life, and one wishes that many things that happened to turn out to be true hadn't been true. But the mark of sanity and the mark of being an adult is accepting that things that one doesn't like are nevertheless true. It's called being hard-headed or mature. Only by accepting that truth is truth and reality is reality can we make a success of our lives. Now, I believe, along with Plato, that reality isn't that bad. There are horrible things in this world, some of which are man's responsibility, and some of which just seem to be par for the course. But in the midst of all that unpleasantness and suffering and pain, there is something which we can call beauty. Something real that we can call beauty. Sometimes we find it in a sunset. Sometimes we find it in a flower. Sometimes we find it in a mathematical equation that suddenly explains a whole aspect of reality. Sometimes we find it in a friend or in a lover. This thing called beauty, Plato believed, was of the most utmost importance, and it was thoroughly real. If we pursue this thing called beauty, Plato believed that there was no end to what we could become, and no end to the joy that we could experience. Beauty isn't just in the eye of the beholder, as the subjective relativist would tell you. Beauty is out there, to be appreciated and rejoiced in and celebrated and desired and pursued and gained. We don't create beauty for ourselves or off our own bats. We appreciate beauty in things that are out there, and that beauty leads us on in a never-ending quest towards what is true. Another word that is very important in Plato's philosophy is justice. What justice is a very big question, and I don't intend to say anything about that really now. But Plato was utterly convinced, as I am, that justice is something that is real, something that we should aspire to, something that we should pursue, and something that we should never be content unless we have attained. Justice is not the same thing as law. If some kind of democratic assembly passes a law that says that something is legal or something is illegal, that doesn't make something more or less just. No, the law may or may not be just. If it makes something legal that is bad and wicked, then that law is just and should be ignored. If the law makes something legal that is good and beautiful, then that is fine, and the law should be obeyed because it is a just law. But law only accidentally represents justice. It only represents justice if the people or person or organ of state that made the law did a good job. If they did a bad job, then that law is not good, is not just, and we have a state of wickedness and injustice. Well, there is much more that I could say that is relevant to my book, but I'll just stop now after that little ramble, and I hope that some of the things that I've said may induce you to read it. If you'd like a signed copy of the book, just email me. You can find my email address on the book's website. It's been nice talking to you, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to me. Goodbye.